Today is 8 days, which are 1 week and 1 day of the Omer. Welcome. So we now are embarking on week 2 of the counting of the Omer. So we went through the entire week of Chesed last week, which was the week of loving kindness. So we are moving from a place of loving kindness toward justice and discipline, Gevurah, justice and discipline. We have examined our perception of love and how we relate and how we share with others, and we are generating and manifesting energy. We are sentient beings filled with emotion that drives us and fuels our evolution. So we have the ability to go forward, or sometimes we regress and go backward. So the many steps that we take forward and back are the process of refinement that we can look at to help guide us on the path of self-awareness and discovery. So during this 49-day period, this is what we have the opportunity and the blessing to do if we have the courage and the fortitude and the discipline to go forth with it. We pour ourselves into the unabashed journey of our own personal depths while we connect with the individual sphirot. The 7 emotional attributes, we use their respective dimensions to facilitate the process, and then hopefully we're improving our emotional state of being and the way we connect with ourselves and others, thereby affecting the entire world, elevating everyone. As we examine and perfect and we refine our emotions, our behavior, and the choices that we make, we uplift, we energize, and we illuminate. So too does the world around us vibrate and pulsate with a different kind of energy, and everyone in it that we come in contact with, because our relationships will have more meaning. We are more authentic. We are able to give and to receive in a greater capacity. So as we become more fulfilled, we share more and more and more, raising ourselves and our relationships and humanity ever higher. So we've now today arrived at day 8 of the second week of the Omer, and we are, well, it's actually, we're on day 8. It is the second week of the Omer. So we're fresh with an enhanced understanding of a week's worth of introspection into Chesed. We have explored the depth and breadth of our capacity for love. And so now we're turning to Gevurah, the emotional attribute that's connected with strength, justice, discipline, and awe. The love that we explored in Chesed is at the very foundation and core of all human relations. Gevurah is the vehicle that drives us and gets us where we want to go. It's the channel through which we can travel to give our love, direction, purpose, and bring our life and our relationships into focus. We then begin to traverse with intention, concentrating all of our efforts in the just and right way that we actually intend them to be, keeping us on a proper path, moving in the right direction. Jim Mattis is quoted as saying, "There are hunters and there are victims. By your discipline, your cunning, obedience, and alertness, you will decide if you are a hunter or a victim." We are here to love and be loved. When things don't go our way, frustration, doubt, misery, plague us, our inner being, our outer being, and how we relate to everybody. Negativity just blocks us and gets in our way. We become sometimes a feeling, we're in a sense of stuckness, and we feel victimized at times, sometimes taking this out on ourselves and others in unhealthy ways. We should look at ourselves and ask if what we say and do or expect of our loved ones is coming from a place of love. What is the motivating factor underlying our behavior? What is it that's driving us? So if it sounds a little bit familiar, this is reminiscent of when we did Gevurah in the week of Chesed, loving kindness. So now we have the Chesed in Gevurah, activating loving kindness in the process of the love inherent in discipline, creating justice and hopefully awe and respect. So through this, we can take control of ourselves. Through this process of emotional refinement, we direct our soul, our heart, our mind toward a higher degree of purpose. The choice is always ours. If we discipline ourselves, we connect to love at its core. If we love another and we want the best for them, we sometimes want to give advice. We sometimes want to help. We must make sure that love is what is driving the dialogue, like a parent with a child, or God with us as the ultimate parent, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. So for example, let's just visualize if cooking at the stove, we step away for just a second, and maybe we grab a spice or we grab another pot or something from the refrigerator, and then a child comes up, reaches for the pot or the gas flame, and we might immediately rush in quickly to stop them. Our tone might appear angry and scolding, but we were trying to prevent or protect them from a scalding, potentially horrific accident. We were coming from a place of love. Now, in a very different scenario, say we're frustrated, something unsettling has happened with some work that we were doing, or maybe we have just come off an upsetting phone call. So a loved one is persisting in the desire for something that they need. They're at us and at us and at us. So we might lash out in some way, maybe scolding them for not letting up on us, always intruding and not giving us space, persisting to drive us to the point of exasperation. So we may criticize them when really our anger and our frustration is misplaced. We're actually mad about something that had just happened previously. So ask yourself if this has ever happened to you. Have you ever fallen victim to this? On either side of the equation, we have to have the strength, givurah, to discipline, givurah, ourselves, showing love with restraint and respect. We don't want to have to always be in the position of having to say that we're sorry or wrong another for something that's actually not their fault. There are going to be some character traits in that person somewhere that have driven us to that point that we might want to correct, but we need to recognize it and approach it with love and the strength found in givurah, the givurah of disciplining ourselves enough to have some patience and loving them enough to address their behaviors in a more acceptable fashion at possibly a more productive time, a time when they'll actually be able to hear us and we might be able to affect a difference in the behavior. So in the case of the child with the hot pot or gas flame, we needed to act quickly to avoid danger. The love and the intention is there. The givurah, the strength that's found in the justice and the discipline, provided the quick thinking response that we need for a focused, purposeful action that was necessary to spare the child. It, in a sense, fueled our fire to save the child. In the other scenario, we misplaced our anger, projected it onto the other person. So we need to have the strength and discipline and the love to take note of the moment and come back around to it later when we can be proactive and not reactive. Sometimes there must be discipline in order to evolve and grow. We just need to make sure that what we're doing is coming from a place of nurturing. When love fuels the conversation, the discipline that we share will help focus, direct, and guide everyone, including yourself, to a higher plateau of being. Anything other than that becomes judgment, interpreted as harsh and critical, serving no purpose other than to destroy and negate any positive feelings or positive outcome, working instead to undo rather than uplift. We end up at cross purposes with ourselves and what we're trying to ultimately achieve. Our underlying intention in all discipline should be love, for discipline in and of itself is love. We can only be responsible for our own self. We cannot and should not judge others from a place of criticism, placing standards upon them that are unrealistic, expecting them to live up to our expectations, and neither can they. What we can do is love others and want the best for them and vice versa. But remember, it should always come from a place of love. When we come from that place of purity, nobility, malchut, and love, as we discussed yesterday, we can achieve great things, and then we can truly help. But if we are out of alignment with where our disciplinary actions are coming from, we then become critical in hurtful ways, and we do more harm than good. So take a look at yourself and ask, has this ever happened to you? Have you been on the receiving end of discipline and the love contained within it? What was your experience? When was it positive and uplifting or degrading, where you felt judged in a negative way, criticized for no reason? Sometimes, if we can look at moments in our own personal story to relate to them, it can help us see what we are doing right or what we're doing wrong with others at a particular moment in time. We have the time now while we're in this pandemic to explore all of these attributes. When we're in a crisis mode and we can take this time to help take a look at ourselves and our character, we can develop in extraordinary ways. So we're learning about how to apply all these attributes and emotional states to our lives and our interactions. We can strive to do things differently. Or maybe we're doing everything okay. Applaud ourselves for our innate moments of purity and embellish upon them. Either way, our relationships and our exchanges will be filled with light. We will illuminate those around us. So to recap, the chesed of Givurah is the love that we can find in discipline when applying it properly. We can want the best for our loved ones, but it's not for us to judge, only love. If we are about to criticize, take a moment to ask yourself, what is the circumstance, your intent? Are you misplacing your frustration? Are you seeing something of yourself in them? Is there some kind of underlying anger or judgment that you have of their behavior that you're then projecting? You can sort of see like a mirror of yourself onto them. Are you coming from a place of respect, trying to elevate with love? If they fail at something, this is pretty heavy. Have you ever felt a little hint of misplaced pleasure or satisfaction, especially if this is a person who has wronged you in some way? Are you misplacing your resentment or your anger and using your judgment as a tool to voice your hostility? Or are you coming from a place of love and respect? Discipline as love always has respect within it. Love, awe, and respect for the other with their best interests at heart. We are human. We can't help ourselves but to get involved at times. We are unable to control ourselves at times, but that's what this process of refinement is all about. We can be our own worst enemies, the source of our own undoing. God is meant to be the only judge. It isn't for us to do this to others in negative and harsh ways. We can want the best for them, coming from a place of love, but we need to hold ourselves in check, making sure that whatever comments we make, however we behave, comes from a place of pure love. That the discipline we expect in others is the same that we expect for ourselves, and recognizing that it is love that should drive us, not a running commentary on what someone else has done wrong or how they have wronged us. So if you criticize another's action or behavior or have any comment to make at all, ask yourself if it's coming from a place of love, and then make sure they know that. Temper your tone, measure your words, keep your emotions in check so things don't escalate, letting love light the way, being just and disciplined and respectful in your delivery. Jim Rohn stated, affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. We must all suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret or disappointment. To discipline ourselves is to love ourselves. To sometimes discipline another can be beneficial if it's coming from the right place. What we put out into the universe, we're going to get back. So to perfect ourselves in discipline, justice, and love, that is what Givurah, loving kindness and discipline, is all about. So for today, think about when you have disciplined and how you did it. When you are on the receiving end and what that felt like. And were you ever criticizing or being criticized from a place of frustration? Or was the core purity? Look at when discipline reflected love and expand upon that. And when you make this connection, pay it forward properly. You will share the discipline that can be love at its most respectful and regenerating. That is when you're in the chesed of Givurah.